Now then, I've got a few moments to get to do something fun. I'm going to sound like one of those people that is at the end of a commercial, you know, where they do the disclaimer and they do it really fast because I get to do something fun. Now, Marlon is going to be bringing the message this morning. Marlon, how about standing up? I want them to see your outfit right there. I want you to look at my outfit. Do you think that we're a part of a State Farm commercial? Because someone pointed that out earlier, so I thought you just might. I'm going to be Patrick Mahomes in this situation, all right? You can be Jake. So here we go. Here's what happened in Love Does in 2023. You should be so proud of yourselves, church. First of all, in January, Love Does did the Super Bowl of giving, and we donated 7 months' worth of soup to Storehouse Ministries to their food pantry. Storehouse is a part of the Noonday, so you can applaud that, absolutely. And we appreciate Rick Cothran and so many other volunteers who go over there and do such a great work, and we just appreciate the opportunity to invest there. Then things like donated laundry detergent bottles to frontline charities. And let me tell you, I have been in our warehouse when people are getting detergent and they are so excited. Something that most of us take for granted, for some people, that is a luxury item. So listen to some of the people that we helped. We helped Special Needs Cobb. We helped the Cobb Center for Young Adults. We helped Children's Haven in Woodstock. They helped to take care of foster children. And you're going to be seeing pictures up on the screen that represent what I'm getting to share with you. Then in February, Love Does is all about special needs. So here's what all took place in February. There were 8 sensory rooms at $2,500 per sensory room, meaning over $20,000 in total was donated to be able to do those sensory rooms. We donated to Kennesaw Mountain High School to help with buses for the special needs dance. So, you know, the night to shine and all of those special things that go on, we're so excited about. But they actually do those in the schools, and we donated the money so that the buses were there to be able to transport them. Then we're a home run sponsor for the Special Needs Development Group at the Horizon League in Ackworth. Their gala this year helped them to raise over $70,000. And you're going to hear us participating in a lot of things like this. We sponsored the Transitional Academy Sports Day at McEachern High School for all of the Cobb County transitional special needs students. Piedmont gave out over $34,000 from the proceeds that we took in here and to the dance teams and KSU Cares from the 2022 Christmas at Piedmont and Love Does. So think about that. We made $34,000. We turned around and we gave it all away. Then in March, it's about candy. Marlon contributes to dental decay here in our community, and the dentists just absolutely love Marlon because Piedmont purchased all the candy, and listen to this, over 96,000 candy-filled plastic eggs. So Lord only knows how many pieces of candy for the Northeast Cobb egg drop. That along with Love Does donated from that event now $34,500 back into the community. So all 17 Northeast Cobb schools and 13 Marietta City schools received funds from the egg drop. Now, the Egg Drop also helped to sponsor a new mentoring program at Kincaid Elementary that puts Sprayberry High School students, connects them to Kincaid's elementary special needs students. April and May is about school partnerships. Money given to Love Does in these 2 months goes to funding all post-planning activities in May, like the 5th grade and the 8th grade picnics, teachers luncheons. In July, Piedmont provided pre-planning teachers luncheons at Bells Ferry Elementary, Blackwell, Chalker, Ackworth, J.J. Daniels, Sprayberry, and Kell High School. In total, there were 17 schools and over 2,500 teachers and students were served. Marlon also likes to point out, we only use local restaurants that sponsor and support our local high school sports teams. So we're very discriminatory there. We also use funds to help purchase 8 pregame meals for our local high school football teams. And in May, Piedmont participates in the North Cobb Rotary Smoke on the Lake Backyard Barbecue Contest. That event this year cleared $60,000 that helped to support 20 charities. Piedmont also donated $3,500 to Shop with the Longhorn, Shop with the Yellow Jacket, and Shop with the Mustang program. Piedmont sponsored the Big Shanty Festival. That raised over $100,000 for our community. And June is Partnership Month. So this is when we partner with other charities, and Marlon refers to them as frontline charities. Must Ministries is one of those. So you helped to sponsor summer lunch this year. That's that 9-week period. 478,000 lunches were given out through Must Ministries to over 6,500 children each week. That's what you helped to do just at Must. And then you also helped us with the book bag drive and the Must Toy Shop. And the toy shop alone, I think our numbers are going to be over 6,500 children received gifts this Christmas. And Piedmont was a huge part of that. Then at the Davis Direction Foundation, we sponsored their gala and the Cardinals Nest Gala. And those two galas raised over $160,000 to help people in recovery who are fighting addictions. We gave $4,000 to the Tommy Nobis Center, a great organization. I served on the board there years ago. $1,500 to the Mountaintop Boys Club, $2,000 to Special Needs Cobb, $3,500 to Crew. Crew, for those of you who grew up around Campus Crusade, that's the new name that they adopted back a few years back. And the Hodges here are a part of that campus ministry over at KSU. And we were thrilled to be able to begin to partner with them. Then July is Backpack Month. So Piedmont donated 641 fully loaded backpacks to 6 schools. August is Undy Sunday Month. This is the only time we do not ask for gently used, all right? We want to go all new there. And listen to this, over $35,000 worth of undies were donated to Cobb County, to the Cobb Community and Schools, the Children's Haven, and to Must Ministries. And over $10,000 worth of diapers were donated to the Cobb Collaborative to kick off the Cobb Diaper Drive. And Piedmont also, during that time, is providing concession stand volunteers at all Sprayberry High School football games. Now, September, we focus on Military Month. And Piedmont sponsored the Military Ball that raises funds for the Sprayberry ROTC program. And we provided the funds for 2 cookouts this year for the Cobb County Sheriff's Department, the Cobb Superior Court, and the Marietta City Police. And that was downtown on one of the hottest days of the summer. I got to go by on that one. Then we donated $2,000 to sponsor Reese Across America. You see the beautiful picture that's there representing people who've served in our armed forces. To me, this is one of the most honorable things we get to do. Maybe it's because my dad was a veteran of World War II and served in the Philippines, but that means the world to me to see that up on the screen. We donated $5,000 to The Cure to help fight childhood cancer. We also sponsored the Love Does Family at the Fair at the North Georgia State Fair. So each night what we do is we go in and we choose a family that we believe has a need, and we get them free admission, unlimited rides, and $200 for food. I've had the privilege of being able to select those families, and you would be shocked at how many times when I've selected a family, the first thing out of the person's mouth after just being shocked that this is going to happen is they say, I was praying that God would answer our prayer to do something for our kids. It's incredible. If you ever want to go out with Marlon and do that, let him know. We'd be glad for you to go and help choose one of those families. All right, let me wind it up. October and November Love Does is all about the Love Does grocery bags. Over 600 Love Does grocery bags were donated to 6 elementary schools. The Love Does funds also purchased turkeys for all 600 of those bags. It's not Thanksgiving without a turkey. And then funds donated to Love Does went to purchase the shuttles and the buses and the lunches for all of those Title I schools that came here to Piedmont. Altogether, 43 schools were here, and many of those were Title I. This was the biggest thing those schools got to do to come to Christmas at Piedmont. And then funds also went to provide box lunches and hospitality for all of the crafters, the sponsors, and the volunteers at Christmas at Piedmont. And Piedmont sponsored the Taste of Ackworth. That gave out $44,000 to our local community. And then in December, it's all about scholarships. As of right now, we have $13,600 set aside for scholarships. That's $6,840 for each of the children's camps and high school camps. Now, our goal is to be able to get $10,000 for each one. So we've got to raise another $7,000 there. To give you an idea, it costs $385 plus the cost of the buses for the children's camp. It costs $150 per student to go to the high school camp in March. And the funds will also go to this summer's Best Week Ever, which is our high school kids out in our community doing service projects. And then Marlon's taking them to his Heaven on Earth and Libby's Heaven on Earth and Matthew's Heaven on Earth. They're going to go to Dollywood, right, Marlon? There you go. I've never been there. Piedmont sponsored 8 families this year at Christmas at Sawyer Road Elementary. Now, here's your grand total, church. This year, you raised for Love Does $220,250.84. I think that deserves a good round of applause. That's absolutely amazing to me. I just, absolutely thrilled with what all has taken place. Now, also add to that total of $220,000, around $45,000 we put into mission trips and other mission giving. So altogether this year, Piedmont gave away about $265,000. And here's what I found out. God will let a lot of money pass through your hands if you don't let it all stick to your fingers. Amen? And so that's our way of tithing and giving back to our community. And I think that's absolutely amazing. So with no further ado, with all that good news, how about welcoming Marlon Longacre as he comes up to share with us this morning why we do the things we do.
Are you going to pray for Rylan?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. And Marlon is making sure, by the way, he's probably watching, he is watching. Tracy sent me a picture. So Rylan Sapaya, we're going to be praying for you at the end. So you make sure that we take the time. Rylan is over at Scottish Rite right now, and he's been going through a real tough time in his health. And buddy, we want you to know his mom sent me a picture and said in the middle of his pain, he's sitting right here watching this morning. And Rylan, we love you. We're going to be praying at the end, and you are our hero, buddy. And being on our hospitality team with everything that you go through, you're my favorite 17-year-old on the planet, all right? Love you. Let's give Rylan a good round of applause this morning and encouragement.
Thanks, Dad. And folks, listen, before I get going, as community pastor, you're an extension of the senior pastor's heart. And so let's give our senior pastor, what we do in the community is all because of the way that this man's heart. So let's give Ike a heart. And to thank my teammates on staff at Piedmont. Folks, I've been in ministry 24 years. I start my 25th year next Saturday, next January 13th. I can't thank my teammates enough. The best year that I've ever had working with such great teammates on staff. You saw so many of them in the pictures there. They were out beside me every step of the way, and I want to thank my teammates for all that they do as well. So give my teammates on staff a hand too. Well, if you have your Bibles this morning, turn with me to the book of Philippians today. You know, many times in ministry, as well as life, we are such fast-forward thinking people that we never take the time to smell the roses. We never take the time to thank those who forever changed the trajectory of our lives or impacted our lives. You know, and Paul was a lot like that. I mean, he was so focused on his vision. He was so focused on what he had to do in life that God placed him in prison to kind of slow him down. And we benefited from that because he wrote so much of what we now know as the New Testament. But he also had time to say thank you. He also had time to reflect on the people who supported him on all of his missionary travels. You see, the book of Philippians is a thank you letter that Paul wrote to them. He wrote to the Philippi people thanking them because they took an offering, because they gave an offering, because they sent an offering to him to support him on his ministries. You would not have the book of Philippians today had they not supported Paul in his financial means as going and sharing the gospel. And today at Piedmont, we're taking the first service of the year to say thank you to you because of your financial support, because of your faithful service to the ministries here at Piedmont. Because what you just heard from Ike, all those statistics, all those pictures, those don't happen without you. That's what today's all about. You know, I'm a Theta Chi. I'm a very proud Theta Chi. Malad's here today. He's the former president of the Theta Chi chapter at KSU. I never claimed to be a Phi Beta Kappa, but here's what I do know. You can't do all this by yourself. The ability to get along with others is so important in life. In fact, John D. Rockefeller said it this: it's the ability that I would pay more than anything else is the ability to get along with others. Success is never a one-man show. It takes teamwork. It takes cooperation, people working together. And Paul's vision was, his dream was to take the gospel where it had never been before. Look at this verse, Romans 15:20. It has always been my ambition to preach the gospel where Christ was not known, so that I would not be building on someone else's foundation. Paul was the inspiration for all the Star Trek Voyagers mission there at Enterprise, to boldly go where no man has gone before. You remember the 6 phases of faith that Ike, Daniel, and I talked about. The number one phase was the dream. Everything that God wants to do in your life will start with a dream, a vision that drives you, a passion that gets you up and going each and every single day. And Paul's dream and passion was to take the gospel where it had never been before. It drove him every single day. And at the end of his life, as he was about ready to be executed, he stands in front of King Agrippa with no regrets. He doesn't even hold back. He says this. Look what he says in Acts 26:19. Therefore, King Agrippa, I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision. Paul and Jesus are great examples of bookends for us to follow. Paul, his first, my ambition is to take the gospel where it's never been. And at the end of his life, I wasn't disobedient to the vision from God. Jesus' first recorded words in the Bible was, I must be about my Father's business. And his last words on the cross, it is finished. Paul and Jesus, 2 people who forever changed the world, but they didn't do it alone. They needed support. We're talking about what Paul got to support. Even Jesus needed financial support. I'll probably share that next year, how Jesus was supported. Paul is thanking the Philippians for their support. And today, Ike and I want to thank you for your support. Because 27 years ago, when we started a church together, and even to this day, we had a dream and a vision to take the church back to the community and to places where it had never been before. And so far, we have not been disobedient to that vision from God. But we can't say to you here today that our work is finished, because it's ongoing. We have even bigger dreams and goals in 2024, which we'll talk about. But the first responsibility of leadership is to clarify a vision. And then the second is to say thank you. That's what the epic emails are all about. 503 of you people get the epic email, and all that is to review, remember, and reinforce why we do what we do, and to say thank you for what we do in the community and to keep you updated on where we are. Paul starts out the book of Philippians with this verse. Look at Philippians 1:3 with me. Every time I think of you, I give thanks to God. You know, I send out thank you cards. Many of you get them. And I usually put that verse at the top of the thank you card. And so many of you, that's what that verse is. I know none of you can read my handwriting. It's so bad. It's how I got through Morehead State University. They couldn't read my handwriting. They just thought, man, that kid tries hard. Just give him a B. Give him a B. Good effort, you know. But I'm so grateful to be on point for the most giving, loving, sharing, caring church in America. We are known for the way we care and meet the deepest needs of our community. That's our name. And every time I think about Piedmont Church family, like Paul, I thank God for your ungrudging service. The way you serve the Lord out of joy, not out of duty, not out of guilt, not out of compulsion, not out of pressure, but with ungrudging, willing, joyful hearts. Look at what he says in Philippians 2:17. Your faith makes you offer your lives as a sacrifice in serving God. Notice it says offer. That means ungrudging. Offer means voluntary. It means nobody forced you to do it. I mean, nobody here at Piedmont supports Love Does out of duty. Nobody serves on Friday nights in concession stands, buys undies, brings loaded backpacks, soups, adopts a child for Christmas. They do it out of guilt. Nobody does it out of fear of going to hell. You do it because you love it. You do it because you love showing God's love in so many different ways. Look at Philippians 1:29. For you have been given the privilege of serving Christ, not only believing in him, but also by suffering for him. Look at that word privilege. God says it's a privilege to serve him. It's not like it's going to the dentist, getting a root canal. It's not like everything's going bad in your life. It is a privilege, it's a joy, it's an honor to show God's love in so many ways, and that's what so many of you do. This month's Love Does is all about the Super Bowl of giving. You look out in our East Hall now, it's soups that we're taking to Storehouse Ministries. That's one of the biggest needs. The pantries right now are low. And obviously people with sick, they need soup. So the need is there is great. The other thing that we asked for, and I just threw this on there because Cobb Center for Young Adults, it's the only, I think, homeless shelter for young adults, high school students. Kids who've been abandoned, kids whose parents are getting arrested, abused. Their number one need, they asked, Marlon, could you help us with laundry detergent? And then you come to find out that the Special Needs Cobb that there's 24 group homes that have 23 group homes. They have 24. One of them is a respite care. But 23 that has 4 older adult special needs lives there. 94% of them never even get a visit. They need laundry detergent. Children's Haven, that's in Cherokee County. Cherokee County now is number 2 with the number of foster children in need. They need all that. That's where all this goes. Laundry detergent and undies are the only 2 I never have to put in my truck and deliver it. They come and get it. It's such a need. Our Helping Hammers ministry helps some of the homes there. They've helped remodel 3 of the group homes there for Special Needs Cobb. I think of the many times you have volunteers to help me with pre-planning and post-planning. I can't thank you enough for all those who have helped me with Miss Dornbush and Bob who's here. They'll vouch for this. I can't thank all of you enough for all the hamburgers and hot dogs that you helped me wrap. We are now number 4. Number 4 now behind McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King with the number of hamburgers cooked. We are now at 6 billion served. And if the varsity doesn't get going, we're going to catch them in hot dogs too. I'm that competitive. They know it, okay? I can't thank you enough for the way that you helped me with the egg drop and Christmas at Piedmont. Think about Christmas at Piedmont. It's rained 12 out of the 14 times. And that's not counting the 2 we had for snow days. So it would be 14 out of 16. But they still want to come because of you. I thank you for the way you serve ungrudgingly. The second thing I want to thank you for is thank you for your unprecedented witness. An unprecedented witness means there's nobody like it in the whole world. I say that because no church around tries to put on an egg drop for 20,000 people. No church around wants to invite 43 schools and 6 dance teams to come and perform for holidays. No church provides the buses for all the Title I schools or provides lunches for all of those. No one provides dinner and lunch the next day for all the 35 crafters that bought a booth here and for all the sponsors that we had. We had over $45,000 in sponsorships this year. Nobody does that. No festival does that. I've been in charge of Big Shanty for 20 years. We don't do that. Taste of Kennesaw, Taste of Ackworth. No one does that but you. We're the first down sponsors and third down sponsors on Friday night at 9 schools. No one does that. We have sponsored 32 sensory rooms in local schools and middle school, elementaries and middle schools. Folks, if you just take a second and think of that, my brother Greg is an athletic director in Jefferson County in Louisville. They're not allowed, churches aren't allowed. It's unprecedented. Many of you know I'm the PA announcer for NorCobb on Friday night. And so, I get to be with them, and then my son Jacob, Olivia and our son Jacob, our middle son, he's the coach at Allatoona. So when NorCobb's on the road, I'll go and watch Jacob coach. And so I get to hear the first downs at Kennesaw Mountain or at Kell that say that first downs, that's another Piedmont church, 1st and 10. So this year I went to Wheeler at NorCobb. I got to go to the game. Jacob had a bye week. So I'm on the sidelines, and Wheeler picks up a first down, and I hear the PA announcer go, I want to hear it, because it's the first time I get it. He goes, the gain is good enough for another Piedmont church, 1st and 10. So I'm on the sidelines with all the Freedom Church pastors at NorCobb. And they get to hear all the times when we're at Marietta, at Kennesaw Mountain, they get to hear Piedmont Church all night. And they look at me and they go, man, are you guys just everywhere? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, we are. And we get to stick it to each other because it's competitive because they sponsor the big play at NorCobb that I have to announce and all that stuff. I had big play sponsored by Freedom Church because Austin sits right next to me, one of their pastors. But I love sticking it back to him when I say Piedmont Church 1st and 10. It's fun. I'm competitive. That's the way it works, Piedmont is committed to being the first call for help in the community. We do that by constantly listening to those on the front lines in our community, meeting their deepest needs. We're committed to being the instrument that God uses to bring fresh supplies to them. I've shared that with you so many times. Those of you who get the epic email, there's no greater buzz in ministry than when you take fresh supplies to those on the front lines by Piedmont, to be their answered prayer to God, that God uses us to be their answered prayer. This past October, Helen Wilson is here from Cobb EMC. With Cobb EMC, we entertained the luncheon. We had about 130 plus frontline ministries or frontline charities in our church. And there's a beautiful picture of Ike talking to them. We're committed to listening to their needs. I talked to 11 of them this week. We listened to them. What do you see? How can we partner with you? Look at what Paul says here in Philippians 1:5 with me. Because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, Paul praises the Philippians for their unprecedented witness. He says, you have partnered with me. They teamed up with Paul for all of his trips. And if you go back to Ike's teachings in Nehemiah series, Nehemiah is probably the greatest book ever written on leadership. In my opinion, it is. Nehemiah rebuilt the walls around his homeland in 52 days, what had not been done in over 80 plus years. 52 days. a man with no construction experience. He was a cupbearer. And the reason why he was able to do it is because he organized the rebuilding of the wall around natural groupings. One of the biggest natural groupings is with families. And if you study chapter 3 in that book, the key phrase in that chapter is next to him. It's used 20 times. Next to him, next to him, next to him. You see, the priests would be motivated to rebuild their walls around the temple because that's where they go to work. You as your home, if you think about your home, you're going to be motivated to rebuild the wall around your home because it protects you. It saves traffic. Nobody had to get on 285 to get in traffic, right? That's why they were able to do it. And in our community, we have natural groupings in place. We have schools to educate our kids. We have police officers, ambulance workers like Michelle sitting here on the front row. We have frontline charities. We have parks and recreation. Next month, when you go to business luncheons or you hear Cobb County, or when you hear cities like Kennesaw, Ackworth, when they get up and talk about quality life, many of what I just talked to you about are the categories in which they use. And what we do is we work next to them to help them rebuild their part of the wall. June's Love Does is Partnership Month. We partner with so many on the frontline charities. We partner with Must for book bags and Sawyer Road, Davis Direction for fighting addictions. We partner with Cobb Communities and Schools, Cobb Collaborative, Cobb Center for Young Adults, Georgia National Cemetery, the Tommy Nova Center, Positive American Youth, Georgia Military Care, Storehouse Ministries, KSU Cares. We work next to them and throw gas on their fires and help them build their part of the wall. This year, I got a phone call late in early December from Cobb Collaborative. She's with Cobb Communities and Schools. It's Natalie Rutledge. She said, Marlon, I know that your church was a big supporter of us, over $25,000 for undies that help kids in our schools. She said, Marlon, I got to go to the well again to ask you, can you help us? We are in dire straits for coats for kids. So would your church give us like $1,000? Because we've got a provider that will give us more coats than people can bring in for the funds. And I'm thinking this way. This is what I'm thinking. I paused for a second. In fact, she even said, Marlon, are you still there? Because I'm thinking, man, I've got buses that we got to take care of. I got all the things that we're doing with our Love Does. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And so many times when I go and speak at conventions or Baptist conventions, they ask me, do you use that what would Jesus do to determine how you do community ministries? And I'm like, no, I don't do that. And they're like, really? I said, no. They go, what do you use? I said, what would I do to me if I didn't? And they go, okay. What if Ike Reichert and even you as a church knew that we had money in the bank and we had kids that were cold needing coats? Marlon, I thought we were committed to being the first call for help. So I said, Natalie, we got it. We'll take care of it. Because of the way you give, I can say yes to that. Community ministries and Love Does help fulfill two purposes that God has for your life and fills two purposes that God has for the church. The first one is ministry. Folks, listen, every member of Piedmont is a minister. You were created to make an impact, Ephesians 2:10. The moment you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, you were given spiritual gifts. You were created to serve. You were called to serve. You were saved to serve. Serving gives your life meaning. And the church is the vehicle for which you can display all those talents that God has given you. The second one is evangelism. The church was created for you to share your story with others. Sometimes our greatest hurt becomes our greatest ministry. 28 years ago, I lost my father to cancer. My father took the firehouse to the community. He was a fire chief for 35 years. When he passed, I felt like the torch was passed to me to take the church back to the community. I think of Anna Thompson, who lost her son Lake to cancer. I think how she turned that hurt into a ministry. At Piedmont, when we do the Red Cross blood drives, they are two of Red Cross's biggest love drives of the year here at Piedmont. So many frontline charities have been started because of a deep hurt. And our deepest hurt becomes our greatest ministry. I think of Ike's book, Treasure from the Dark. It helped me get over the loss of my father. And one thing that was said in that book that stood out, there's so much in there. But here's the one that stood out to me. How you get over a deepest hurt. The fastest way to get over a deep hurt in your life is when you go from why did this happen to what am I going to do about it? We all have a shape. You hear I talk about that all the time. We all have spiritual gifts, heartbeats, abilities, personalities, different personalities, but that E is for experiences. We all have evangelistic experiences. We all have spiritual experiences. We all have vocational experiences, relational experiences, painful experiences. And folks, we've been through what we've gone through to help others get through what they're going through. Today, when I think of you, I thank God for your ungrudging service, your unprecedented witness, and lastly, your unselfish generosity. Why? Because none of this that we've talked about today would happen without you giving to our church. Piedmont is a compassion-focused church. Compassion means knowing everything about someone and loving them anyway. Love begins with your eyes. You see things and you're compelled to act. That's why I love our mission statement that says we exist to show God's love, not just talk about it. We show God's love in so many ways every day. Over and over, you are faithful to give. And because of that, Piedmont keeps our name in the community. We can be the first call for help. Look at these verses in Philippians 4, 10, 15, and 16. How grateful I am. Here's his third reason for gratitude. And how I praise the Lord that you are helping again. In other words, they sent offerings in the past. I know you have always been anxious to give what you could, but for a while you did not have the chance. As you well know, when I first brought the gospel to you, and then when on my way leaving Macedonia, only you, Philippians, became my partners in giving. No other church did this. Even when I was in Thessalonica, you sent support more than once. In other words, these people financially supported all of Paul's mission trip around the Roman Empire. They continue to give. They weren't a one-and-done church. Paul is saying, here I am thanking God for your unselfish generosity. And this is what Ike and I, my teammates on staff in this community are doing today. We're thanking you for your unselfish generosity. Day after day, month after month, project after project, year after year, you continue to give and serve this community and meet the deepest needs. And folks, listen to me, you've been doing that since 1962. Long before I got here in 2012. Let me close with this today. I want you to write this verse down in your notes if you're a note taker. Matthew 22:37. I want you to remember, selfishness is not in God's plan for us to obey him. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart. In other words, with all your energy. With all your soul. In other words, make a commitment to put healthy stuff in your mind, your will, and your emotions. That's why you need to get into a Bible study, get into God's word. And with all your mind, in other words, what we believe to be true. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Mark, when he gave this version of this encounter that Jesus had with his lawyer, he added this. He added, with all your strength. And he's not talking about how much you bench press there. What he's talking about there is all your resources, your material leverage, your wealth. So love God with all your heart, soul, your mind, and strength. And here's what I want you to write down. I want you to write this down. I want you to memorize this. I want you to memorize the numbers 613. Now, that's not for you who keep score in baseball. That's not shortstop to pitcher to first. That's not the numbers I want you to use for the lottery or anything like that. I want you to write these numbers 613, 613. That's how many laws there was in the New Testament, 613. So Jesus, when the lawyer asked him this question, what the lawyer was trying to do, what is the greatest of those 613? He was trying to trick him. So Jesus just gave him the cliff notes. He said, let me summarize these into two. You go study them because they're going to be on the final exam. Love God, love your neighbor. Now, folks, Romans 14:12 says this. One day we're going to stand before God and give an account of our life. You know, I worked at Life of Georgia. I used to work in the actuary department. They could calculate when you pass with your insurance. But here's one thing I learned. The mortality rate is 100%. One day you are going to stand before God and give an account in your life. Ike's going to cover this in about 2 weeks. And God's going to ask you 2 questions. What did you do with my son? And what did you do with what I gave you? Who benefited from your life? Who did you help with your life? Who's going to be there because of you? Love God, love your neighbor. Why 2? Here's why. Because you can't love God without loving others. Our mission statement at Piedmont says, we exist to show God's love in such a way that people would exchange ordinary living for an extraordinary life through the transforming power of Jesus Christ. In 25 years, that's the only mission statement I've ever known, and it's our senior pastor's personal mission statement. We show God's love in such a way. We love God so much that we want to show others. And we look for ways to show his love. So today, I thank you for your ungrudging service. I thank you today for your unprecedented witness and for your unselfish generosity. Love does. Amen? Let's pray. Father, Lord, it's hard. This is a hard prayer because I'm getting choked. Because, you know, Lord, I stand in my desk and month after month after month and trying to lead this church and to meet the needs of this community. And when you get the phone calls, and Lord, so many times you think, how are we going to take care of 17 schools? And how are we going to, take care of the 5 sensory rooms that have already been on our docket in February? Or how are we going to come up with 600 and something book bags and undies? But Lord, I just put it all to you. And I just put it in your hands. And I don't worry about it. Because where you lead, you'll provide. And Father, I never, ever doubt my church family. I don't mind bragging. Stand in front of people saying I work for the most giving, loving, caring, serving church. Because every month they come. They volunteer in the cold weather at 9 degrees to cook for bus drivers. They serve on Friday nights at concession stands. They constantly look for ways to show your love every single day, week, month, year. Lord, you have entrusted this church and the impact that this church has had since 1962. It's an enormous weight. But you put this church here to meet the needs of this community. And Father, I thank you for being a part of a church family that takes so much pride in that takes so much pride in showing your love and your name. That they think of where they were when you graced them, and out of their love for you and appreciation for what you did for them on the cross, they go and they serve others. They don't do it out of guilt. pressure. They do it because they love you and they want to share it with others. Lord, I thank you for that. I thank you for days like today that we get to celebrate because of the way that this church gives. And Lord, I just pray that you just bless us and guide us throughout 2024, that we always look up to you for guidance, direction, and may you always protect our hearts. In Jesus Christ's name that I pray. Amen.